Thank you, Felipe. I want to thank you and Verone Vehicles for hosting this event and inviting Skyports to participate. As a quick introduction, I'm Andrew Cummins. I'm the Director of the Americas at Skyports. I'm based in San Francisco. And it's really a pleasure to provide insight into the exciting work that we're doing at Skyports as part of the urban air mobility ecosystem, and really why we view Latin America as a strong potential market for urban air mobility. So over the next few slides, I just want to talk a little bit about kind of who we are, what we do, and how we do it. So Skyports, we are a world leader in building, owning, and operating vertiports. Vertiports are the landing infrastructure for eVTOL vehicles, and vertiports really enable the urban air mobility market by providing space in urban, suburban, and other locations for for electric vertical takeoff landing vehicles to land. We are a talented and energetic team of AvGeeks. We have backgrounds in aerospace strategy, airport design, and commercial real estate. And we're also proud to have some of the largest infrastructure, airport, and airline owner operators as investors and strategic partners of ours. All right, so at Skyports, we manage the entire process of vertiport design, development, and operations. And really that starts with securing the appropriate sites, whether that's securing a lease or purchasing the property. Then we move into the phase where we design and build vertiports tailored to the environment at each site. And then lastly, we move into the final phase, which is providing the ongoing airside and landside operations of the vertiport. And then really ultimately, all of our designs and processes will comply with the aviation standards and requirements of that region, country, or local area. So the question is, why are we focused on infrastructure? Well, if you look at the UAM ecosystem to date and the investment that has been made into the market, you'll see that a majority of the investment has been in some of the incredible air vehicles and component technologies to support their development. However, if you look at infrastructure, there has generally been a level of underinvestment. However, infrastructure is truly a key enabler to market development, and that's why we are working to help solve that piece of the puzzle. So really, there's a great opportunity ahead, there's no doubt, but there's also challenges that exist when it comes to bringing vertiports to market. First is timing. Vertiport lead times to secure sites to develop and build vertiports can take in the range of anywhere from 1 to 3 years, depending on what part of the world we're working in. The next thing is finding suitable sites. So finding attractive locations to support a strong network is key. However, often the best locations are in dense city areas, which can sometimes present challenges from a zoning, permitting, and regulatory perspective. There are inconsistencies when it comes to policy, planning, and permitting rules across cities and regions around the world. Power access is critical to support the battery recharging for air vehicles, so there must be a strong connection to the power grid. And building vertiports requires capital to be deployed at the right time. And so we are working on all of those challenges as we speak. And we're solving some of those challenges in a few different ways. So we're leveraging our deep commercial real estate expertise to engage landlords, cities, and policymakers to secure sites. We are closely connected and have partnerships with some of the leading vehicle OEMs to develop go-to-market strategies and do testing around aircraft and infrastructure integration. One great example is that beautiful picture you see in the background, which is the VERTIPORT. That was the world's first proof of concept vertiport that was built in Singapore in October of 2019. It was in collaboration with our air vehicle partner, Volocopter. And then, so lastly, we're also engaged in market development activities in countries and cities across the globe. We're working with regulatory and standards bodies to shape vertiport standards, and we're also working on initiatives to engage the public. So over the next few slides, I just want to set a foundation of vertiports. So the first question is, what is a vertiport? How is it different from a helipad, for example? Well, you'll see that there's a few key differences which are highlighted in blue. There needs to be a passenger terminal to facilitate seamless customer journey and experience, which includes some, the technologies for check-in and security. Next, you need some form of air traffic control, and eventually into the future, you'll need unmanned traffic management systems to safely integrate these air vehicles into the national airspace. You need battery recharging and swapping capabilities, which is an important part of the concept of operations to enable efficient turnaround times of these air vehicles. And lastly, you need fire and rescue equipment, which is similar to what you'd see at an airport, but tailored to mitigate the risk of battery fires. So, where can we deploy vertiports? They can be built in a variety of environments. Every site is different, and we adapt to the environmental conditions in that area. They can be deployed in a range of structures or on a range of structures, as you'll see here. Parking structures, potentially rooftops, on pontoons, adjacent to land based on water, integrated into existing transportation hubs to form a multimodal system of transportation, and then open spaces. And we have a pipeline. We've developed a pipeline of sites globally. For example, we're looking to integrate vertiports into major railway stations in Germany, and that's in association and partnership with our partner Deutsche Bahn. So how do we decide where to locate vertiports? With each site, we develop a feasibility study, and that's based on numerous considerations. We analyze over 100 variables when scoping site viability. Those variables can be grouped into roughly 4 main buckets, as you see here on this page. Just to give a quick overview of some of those buckets, when it comes to the building and the environment itself, you need to ensure that the footprint is large enough to support a full vertiport. You need to ensure that there's no major obstacles in the approach and departure paths. And you need to be aware of some of the environmental factors, such as wind and weather. Some of the services that are important considerations, does the power grid offer enough capacity to handle battery recharging? You need to consider things like planning, zoning, and permitting to allow for UAM operations. And then ultimately, you need to make sure that the business case closes as far as, analyzing if the site adds value to the network. So all of this work really culminated in the launch of the world's first proof of concept vertiport in Singapore last year in October 2019. As I mentioned, this was in collaboration with our vehicle OEM partner, Volocopter. To get to this stage, we undertook numerous activities. Part of that was engaging with the regulatory authorities and city planners in Singapore. We were able to engage the public directly. Over 8,000 visitors visited this Voliport over 5 days. It allowed us to do things such as develop concepts of operations and technical integration and technology testing, such as battery charging, fire safety, passenger check-in, and the entire customer journey. And really, this is the first step in our route to permanent operations, which we plan to launch in Singapore in the 2023 timeframe. And really what this did was it helped to inform us on how to build the next iteration of vertiports, which has enabled us to design Skyport 1. So Skyport 1 was based on the experience gained in Singapore. And really what we did was we honed our vision for infrastructure to support initial UAM commercial operations. The design and development strategy of Skyport 1 is based really on a few key principles. One, for it to be vehicle agnostic to create an open market as advanced air mobility or urban air mobility matures. It needs to be low cost and rapidly deployable to mitigate cost for the industry and make sure UAM is accessible for more passengers up front. It needs to be modular and scalable to grow and evolve as the industry matures and support industry scalability. And overall, we've received great feedback on this from stakeholders across the industry on this approach. And we are actively working globally to bring Skyport 1 to market. So really bringing everything together, Skyports, we engage really in three main activities across the globe. One is really, our operational know-how. We're able to, secure, design, build, and operate vertiports. And that's really based on real life experience, such as our activity down in Singapore. We're also able to leverage extensive operational knowledge from our strategic partners. We work very closely with our vehicle OEMs. We're integrating our deep understanding of vehicle requirements into vertiport design. And really what we're doing is working with our vehicle partners to develop go-to-market strategies to launch in certain markets around the world. And lastly, it's about building our regulatory expertise. We're actively engaged with standards and regulatory bodies to help shape vertiport requirements. And really what we want to do is transfer that knowledge gained to markets around the world and ensure that our vertiports meet the globally accepted regulations and standards. So let's take a look at how this all came together in real life. We have a video of our proof of concept of Volaport down in Singapore. So what you see here again is the first proof of concept vertiport. This was in October of 2019. It integrated really the full passenger journey, starting with booking the flight on your phone, all the way through to the seamless customer experience using advanced technology. For example, as you just saw there, the advanced biometric check-in. It also allowed us to do things such as integrating the aircraft and infrastructure and understanding how the two assets work together and how to develop the concept of operations for smooth and efficient operations. Let me pause that. All right. So Skyports views Latin America as a market with significant UAM potential, really that could provide benefits to a multitude of stakeholders. Many of the foundational elements in our view are in place to build a thriving system in Latin America, many nations in Latin America. Just some of the foundational elements such as there are many very urban environments in Latin America. About 80% of residents live in urban areas, and that's predicted to rise over the next 10 to 20 years. Citizens in Latin America deal with significant traffic challenges in some of the largest cities. In Bogota, for example, the city is only 15 or 20 miles wide, but that can take 90 minutes or more in traffic. And really the existing transit infrastructure is already somewhat stressed. So this would provide another option to take some pressure off of the existing transit infrastructure. And lastly, many of the cities already have well-developed helicopter operations, and that really facilitates an easier transition to urban air mobility since you have established helicopter corridors and some of the other frameworks in place. So to effectively bring urban air mobility to market, it's going to require, the active involvement across, all stakeholders, really, public at the federal and local level, private industry and local communities, creating ecosystems to safely test the technology and ecosystem integration will be very important. Air vehicle infrastructure and traffic management systems, for example, are all components that will have to be tested and then rolled out into communities. Public acceptance initiatives will also be very important. And then with the right support and investment, UAM could really be brought to market at pace in Latin America due to some of the structures that are already in place. And really, lastly, urban air mobility can bring multiple benefits to the market. First, it can be about connecting the network into other forms of transit to take pressure off existing transport infrastructure. It can help to promote a sustainable future, reduce the carbon footprint. And really, it's about developing a foundation of an industry that can promote economic development in communities in Latin America as well. So ultimately, we look forward to working with Veron vehicles and others in the ecosystem to make urban air mobility a reality in Latin America. So I just want to close quickly by using history as a guide to envision the future. So what you see here is Heathrow Terminal 1 in 1940. As you can see, it's quite rudimentary by today's standards, but at the time, it was a large advancement. If you flash forward about 80 years, here's Heathrow T5 today. And as most people who have traveled through it know, it's one of the most advanced transportation hubs in the world. In fact, in 2018, it handled over 32 million passengers alone. So can you imagine the possibilities for vertiports as advanced air mobility evolves over the coming years? As you see here, this is, Skyport 1 in 2019. And, can you envision what Skyport 5 will be maybe in about 10 years from now? At Skyports, we can, and that's why we're passionately pursuing that journey every day. And we look forward to bringing urban air mobility to Latin America and other markets around the world. Thank you.